This is Signature Evening. If you're just joining us, you are right on time. Nigeria is a multicultural nation, and every community in Nigeria has its own peculiar culture that keeps to the value of the people, and every culture carries with it the popularly accepted values that are morally acclaimed. The movie industry provides a means of entertainment for the people of any society. The intention borders not only on entertainment but also indoctrination and enlightenment of the members of the society. Portrayal of traditional values of any culture requires a high degree of accuracy. Some Nollywood films have continuously provided a misrepresentation of the indigenous culture and traditional values of the Igbo people. Over the years, this misinformation has continued to serve as a guideline in the perception of their custom, which stems from a place of colonial inferiority and bogus capitalist tendencies. Finding has shown that many Nollywood films has hastily churned out and distributed with little or no research. And to have the conversation on abuse of Igbo cultures and other affinities, Nollywood perspective, our in-studio guest is Mahansa aka Ezengwoko, who is Enugu State Cultural Ambassador. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you very much. It's Ezengwoko.
Ezengwoko. Okay, that's a very rare name, if I must say. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
So just as we have said, Igbo culture has been misrepresented in the Nollywood space. You know, people have a different perspective of the Igbo people. Whenever you have a conversation with people from other tribes or what they think the Igbos are, they feel, oh, they are money-minded, they are really wicked, you know, so many things. How would you say Nollywood has really represented the Igbo culture out there, the traditions, the norms, and every other thing that has to do with the Igbo people?
Thank you very much. First and foremost, I will say that truly the Igbo culture has been misrepresented over the years. And, you know, because we have different cultures and their peculiarities based on different locations in Igbo land. Like people from Osoka have their different culture, just, you know, but then the people from Ojebo Guinea will have their different culture, you know, and then the people from Imo State or Hafia, wherever, you know, they have their different cultures. But what I have seen in Nollywood was something I had been talking about for years, and I'm very happy that such a topic is being raised. I started talking about this more than 20 years ago. Or thereabout, yes, and said what we are doing is that we are crushing the very fabric of the Igbo nation, you know, as a people. And this misrepresentation has a lot to do with the stifling of the value system that we have here. But if we look at the history of what we had gone through during the Nigerian civil war, you will see that the Igbo man actually was, okay, the war wasn't fair on the Igbo man, okay? And the strategies that was raised by the people who were running things as at then was to give the Igbo man 20 pounds after the war. So it made the Igbo man start afresh, which gave rise to more individuality rather than collectiveness. And that individuality is what we see today as, you know, created some kind of a very terrible, monstrous situation in our system. Before then, we had the Onyaga na Nwanneya philosophy, which means you go, you carry your brother along. But this time around, there is some kind of unhealthy competition that happens among the Igbo people. You know, you want to make money more than your brother, you want to sell your brother and make money, and then, you know, because that competition was something that was created by the system after the war. Okay? So where Nollywood, or where I can say Nollywood has a very terrible, I'll use the word terrible because it's really affecting what we see today in Igbo land. and in the world at large, because what you present to the world is what the world takes you for, you know. And this get rich quick thing that is being pushed out there is really, really affecting us.
I mean, with what you just said, that the Igbo people, before now, you have to carry your brother along, but now it seems like everybody wants to be richer than every other person that they're associated with. And with what the Nollywood is doing, is this as a lack of, they don't do the proper research before carrying out certain roles in the movie industry? Is it their fault?
It's just like the way Nigeria is. A carpenter is a mechanic. Yes. And then a newscaster is a preacher somewhere. Okay? So we have misplaced priorities, and you know, everything is jammed up because people have to survive. So in the course of survival, all sorts of things can happen. People who are not experts in something, you see them doing it because they have to eat. So it affected a lot of things. It has a multiplier effect, maybe it's a domino effect in the system.
So looking at this thing, what is so far going to be the long implication, or what has been the long implications of this particular situation?
You see, this is a very, very important question you asked. You look at our situation now in Nigeria. Look at the Igbo man. The Igbo man, like I said, is trying to survive. Mm-hmm. Now, some of us have made the money, but the rudiments of how this money, or the background of making this money, is not very clear most times. Some will tell you, okay, they are doing business.
What business?
That's it. They say, we're doing business. And I'm at China. Oh, wonderful. You're doing business, there's no problem about that. But will you allow us to come look close to your business to know what you're doing? That's where the problem lies. And by so doing, we also have a system where the government promotes people like that. Somebody makes too much money, nobody asks questions, and the next thing, the person is a politician. So how can a man who has children, of course, there are so many parents who are criminals, of course. I'm sorry, but that's the reality, okay? What moral value is he going to impart on these children? Some parents buy results from for their children. So what are they going to tell these children? You know, so this thing is eating too deep into the Igbo society that I don't know how we're going to come out of this. Probably some kind of reorientation is going to happen. But the people who you are trying to reorientate, are they really ready to be reorientated? Okay, we have a situation whereby a young man buys a car, he's still in the university. He buys a car and the parents are celebrating it.
Mm-hmm. We see cases like that a lot.
And then if you put on the Nollywood, if you put the Nollywood narrative, you see a man who has committed all sorts of things, and at the end of the movie, to God be the glory. I don't understand that. He's been, you know, killing people, doing all sorts of rituals, and then, or doing some kind of shady business, and at the end of the day, he now repents. Maybe one of the people he killed now comes in as a ghost, and then he cries and shouts and jumps out, and then he's found in the hospital, and after that, to God be the glory. The movie just ends there. So there is no implication, there's no consequence for whatever thing this person has done. That's why I said these things more than about 10, 20 years ago. I said, this thing is going to cause a problem. But now, it's good you're bringing up this topic.
Okay, so the frequent portrayal of Igbo people as evil, when it comes to Nollywood, obviously, the portrayal of Igbo people as evil with, you know, a different mentality, would you say this is as a result of the colonial period?
That's what I said. This thing happened after the war. Because the Igbos weren't like that.
Oh, really?
Yes, they weren't like that. We had this Onyaga na Wanaya thing, you know. And the colonial masters as well, I wouldn't have to, you know, exempt them from this. Because in the olden days, we were polygamous. And the essence of polygamy was because of our economic system. Agriculture, trade by barter was our
Means of,
economic system.
yeah.
You understand? Means of exchange. So a man can have 4 or 5 wives, and he has children, maybe 20 children, and then they all have their portions in the farms, and everybody's got their products, and then they all come together in the marketplace. Someone has this person has this, you have rice, this person has yam, this person, and then you exchange.
Trade.
You understand what I'm saying? So it was the introduction of the fiat money that the white man did to us that brought about all this whole catastrophe. Because when that money was introduced, that fiat money was introduced, you can now see somebody who will just be a kidnapper, and the white man pays him money. You could see an assassin, they pay him money to go and kill somebody. Maybe this guy's been giving problem to the state, and that's it. And of course, trust our people, they always learn bad things very quickly. So that is it.
Okay, so with the things, with what is going on now and the attention that the Nollywood have, can we really trust it to still preserve some part of our culture, irrespective of the culture now?
Everything depends on the government.
Really?
Yes.
Even in Nollywood?
Yes, everything depends on the government. You know, like people look at Hollywood. The Hollywood has a great influence in the minds of people all over the world. You know those days when you watched Sylvester Stallone in First Blood, and Rambo goes to Vietnam and fights and destroys everywhere just with one gun, and all the other soldiers are shooting him. It portrays America as, yeah, this is a very strong nation. You know, and one of their mercenaries goes in there and does all that, disorganizes the whole country and comes back. It's not real. But then whenever you see that American flag and whenever you see an American soldier, that's the first image you see. Do you understand? Just like they have in Nollywood, I want to also bring in another aspect, which is music. Because music, as audio and visuals, they go hand in hand. You look at the kind of music we listen to now in Nigeria, and you see that it's a curse. We're not going to come out of this. Unless the government says, okay, because I used to know they have a census board.
Yes.
Before you bring out anything, you have to go through the census board. I don't know what happened about that census board. Okay? So anybody can just sit in the comfort of his room, record whatever thing, post it.
And it sells.
However it sells, I don't know. How they push it, I don't understand it. But then you see them all over the place. And then these things are being fed to our children. They're being fed to the adults as well. You know, and when you continue hearing one, that's the power of promotion and the power of sound. When you continue hearing one thing over and over again, and you continue watching one thing over and over again, it forms your psyche. That is exactly what is happening. So the government needs to come in and don't say, oh, well, they are paying tax. It's not about paying tax. Anybody can pay tax. But you have to regulate what happens in your system. For instance, the TikTok, everybody's going, we're doing social media, right? Mm-hmm. But what you're doing in TikTok is not what they're doing in China. If you go and see Chinese TikTok, it's a different thing. You see technology, you see children producing all sorts of things. But here, people are jumping up, throwing their naked bodies that are not even interesting, up and down, just to get content. And then to be monetized. Do you understand? So it's an aberration on us.
Okay, let's look at the misrepresentation of cultural symbols. I'm talking about rituals, masquerades, and even proverbs. You see these things happen in Nollywood movies. Growing up, I understand that masquerades are like a very sacred thing to behold. Not everybody sees it, but you would see representation of these said sacred masquerades in the movie industry, and even to the point of bastardizing it means as if it has no meaning again attached to what it's supposed to be. So now, are we really losing the identity of the Igbo people even without understanding it?
You see, just like I said, the most important thing is to have the right people do the right thing. Get the right people to do the right thing. Like this is a TV station, right? This is a TV station. Wonderful. You can't get an auto mechanic to be doing presentation just like you're doing. True or false?
True.
Good. So you have to use the right personnel for what it is supposed to be doing. It's supposed to be for the right personnel. Do you understand? Now, you talked about masquerades. From my history, by study of history of the Igbo people, masquerades were more like mediums of control, more like mediums of maintaining law and order in a system. Do you understand? And now there's some also other masquerades that are for entertainment. Every masquerade has a function in the system. Do you understand? Now, who are these people who are producing these Nollywood films? These are basically, most of them are just people who have just made money and they say, oh, film gives money, and then they jump into it. That is where the problem is. If we have a theater arts department in the University of Nigeria in Nsukka or some other university, they should have people who are experts in this thing. We're not trying to say that somebody who didn't read theater arts might not be able to act, but at least there should be some level of training, competition. You know, even let's call it competition. The Nollywood people will do their own. Those people in the academic section will do their own, so we can have a balance. But here, you just have people. Anybody can just wake up one morning, get a camera, and then they are shooting a movie. Do you understand? When experts handle things, it comes out differently. Because they will think it through. Whatever detail, they go through it and then it's okay, why do you have to put this here? This is why we're, okay, what is it going to cost in the system? What, you know, they dissect these things. Sometimes I watch Nigerian movies. I don't even know if it's a horror movie. I don't even know what it is. I don't even know what they're doing. You know, so I don't watch it anymore. I'm sorry, I don't watch these things because I'm not intellectually challenged by what I see. Okay? Some time ago, when I was, that's about 15 years. It's a long time. It's a very long time ago. They did this Nollywood travel agency. They came down to Enugu here. It was organized by Charles Inoja and his group. So, you know, we had this workshop and then we had to write, you know, stories and scripts and stuff. So I did my own story. Fortunately, my story came out the first. It came out the best. Because I was writing something else. Away from whatever every other person was writing. You know? Areas where people are not even thinking about. We write stories that, okay, it's all about love, Satan, Jesus, blah, blah, blah. That's what they write about. Has anybody ever sat down to write about exam malpractice? Do you know what exam malpractice has done in Nigeria? That's where we're coming from. So, but back to the subject, Igbo culture and values. It is fully misrepresented. When we say that someone is a dibia, for instance, a dibia is a doctor.
A native doctor.
A doctor. Call it whatever you want to call it. He's a doctor. Because even those who studied orthodox medicine, in some countries they study ancestral medicine. Yes. Okay, you see these guys in China, these Chinese people doing Tianxi. What's Tianxi? It's Chinese traditional medicine. So why do we have to demonize ours in Africa? Why do we have to do that? So a dibia is a conserver and preserver of life, of nature. But the Nollywood will present a dibia as somebody who kills people. Okay? In those olden days, when there is a problem, a dibia will do divination, afa, to ask the gods, what is this? What is this problem? How do we solve it? After that happens, he will say, okay, go to so and so person. That was division of labor. We had a system that was working. Okay? And once somebody is called to preserve life and conserve life, you are not supposed to take life. That's a dibia for you. Because he has been called to conserve and preserve nature. That is why he will speak to the herbs, or he will understand the language of the herbs. And understand the language of the cosmos. So these things they are doing in Nollywood is really, really damaging the Igbo culture. It's damaging what we are doing.
Let's look at the role that even the audience has to play in this situation. The audience have a way of, you know, prompting what comes on screen, the ones that they have that is in high demand, the kind of stories that they would like to listen to. I can remember some of the movies like Lionheart, Living in Bondage. They even had to do a new one, you know, since the other one was an old one, and so many of them. The audience has a huge role to play in the kind of movies that interest them. So would you say that this to the Nollywood film producers are going in accordance to what the audience would prefer to see?
Okay, you see, this is a very important question you asked. You can't eat your cake and have it. You cannot continue to be feeding yourself rubbish and expect to have the best society in your system. I'll give you an instance. There's some songs I might not even be able to sing here. I will I will hear these songs.
We need to censor the words.
Please. There are songs I will hear. And I will wonder, if you are pumping this thing in the heads of people and you say this is what people like, then the people are doomed. I'm sorry, but that's the reality. You can't eat your cake and have it. If we keep on projecting negativity, if we keep on swallowing negativity, everything we do will be negative. It's as simple as that. Now, when you talk about the people, I just look at it and say, why do we always want to say, okay, this is what people like? Why don't you say this is what people have been given? If you do a good movie, people will watch it. But if you continue doing a movie that is just, I don't want to use the word rubbish, but it is rubbish because it is affecting the people negatively. It will give rise to some things in the system. Vices. Number one is crime. And then when the crime comes, you start running around and saying, there's so many criminals. You caused it. Because you've been feeding people with crime and stories about crime. If you feed people with ritual killing and then success and all this kind of that, whatever success attached to it, people will start doing it. It's what you feed them. That's the power of the media. That's the power of these things you see. When you see a South Korean who doesn't understand English dancing to Michael Jackson, you think it's a joke. And he's singing Billie Jean, you think it's a joke. That's the power of promotion. It's what you have given him. What's made available to him. So that is the problem. Yes, the Nigerian people are just, I don't want to use some kind of words, but I'm not going to use these words here, but because you see them. You see even the people who you think the elite. The so-called intellectuals you see. And you see the kind of things they watch and see the kind of things they listen to, and you just begin to wonder. I remember those days. I think when I was in the university in the 90s. It was 91, 92, about that time. When I was in the university. 92, about that, 92, 93. When, I'll call the name, Oliver the Cook, of the blessed memory. When he sang Anemu Budewe, I have sat down and watched that thing and listened to that music. And I said to people, I'm sorry, but this music is going to create something in Igbo land. And then he starts mentioning names of Ndimo Obodo. And then you look at these people who are being mentioned. That was when I knew that we've entered some problem we might not be able to come out. Because as a matter of fact, when we were students, some students went into fraud as at that time.
As at that time?
Yes, in the 90s. Because there were some names that were mentioned. And that's what most of them were doing. And go and look at the roll call. Majority of them are dead as we're talking. So do you think something negative comes in and you think it will just, move away like that? It's become ingrained in our DNA. It has come into our DNA. And we have to flush it out from our DNA. That's the only way we can do it.
Okay, looking at the influence of the global popularity of the Nollywood, how has it influenced what people think of the Igbos internationally? Because it's not just in Nigeria that we consume Nollywood movies. People abroad also consume these movies.
When I was in South Africa, they would tell me, I like your music, I like your Nollywood. And I was just looking at these people. say you like it. Do you really know what these things are talking about? And they say, oh, they're so nice. The Lagos is fine. I said, leave the niceness and fineness. Do you know the message behind this? And they say, no, tell me. I want to say, oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay. Fast forward it to the era of xenophobia. These people have consumed it. They've consumed the material. And then they come out.
They start seeing us as threats.
And then you have to ask yourself, what our guys are doing there? Because they watch the thing. And somebody comes in a movie and says that they tell you, Odogwu, Odogwu, and they start throwing money up and down. These things have a way of affecting the people's psyche. And then imagine a little boy who is born in a ghetto. The father is not, his father is just one man, maybe he's a security guard somewhere. The mother sells food stuff in the market. And then he's watching that thing. You think that boy is going to remain there? He's going to wake up one morning and say, okay, right, I have to get a metal, man, and get this thing done. And that's it. Because he doesn't want to go back to where the father is. He wants to even elevate the family. That's it. So it has a negative impact, a very serious negative impact in our society. And it's not portraying Igbos in the right way. It's not.
Okay, so, and just as you mentioned, you see a movie, you have, you get influenced by this movie. We've seen cases like that. I think sometime, few years ago, there was a movie that trended, and I think it was a robbery scene. Then this young boy decided to, you know, do a replica of this in real life. He tried to rob a bank. I can't remember exactly if it was a bank, but you see these things happen. How has this really affected the minds of people? How can we move from, you know, creating an awareness that these movies are just for viewing pleasure and not for you to pick the bad lessons in it and replicate it in real life?
You see, the human mind is a very complicated thing. A hungry person only thinks about survival. And as long as you're showing him pictures of, okay, this is how it works, and then somebody does crime, and then from the crime he gets to some level whereby the society accepts him without asking questions. What does this man do? There's no remedy for it. I'm sorry. Unless we begin to say, because I remember those days when I was growing up, I bought a watch. I said when I bought a watch, I came back. And my dad looked at me and said, what's this? Where did you get it from? That was how it was then. You have to explain it. But today, because nothing is controlled anymore, people are wild into the system. Everybody wants to make money. All the songs in the air are talking about money. All the movies are talking about money. You see, if the government does not come in to regulate this thing, the criminal tendencies in this system will get higher.
I don't know if you've seen the movie Things Fall Apart.
Yes, I saw it a long time ago.
Okay, the movie. With what you had seen in this movie, with the much you can remember, how well was the Igbo culture represented in this movie?
It was represented properly, and then it gave us some class. It gave the Igbo man some class in the system. And then somebody who has watched Things Fall Apart turns around to come and watch these things they are doing now. An international person saw Things Fall Apart, you know, when Things Fall Apart was, you know, produced, and then comes to see what these people are doing these days. Hey, come on.
There's a big difference.
No. I wouldn't even look at it 2 times. I wouldn't even think about it twice. Because it's not representing who we are.
So with all this being said, you've been mentioning the government. What exactly can the government do? Because can you really capture all the producers of Nollywood movies and put them under a particular regulation or whatsoever that is supposed to be done?
If the government is serious, because the government is not serious to do anything. They're just serious to make money. If the government is serious to do anything, they should have researchers in the system who will know the impact of these things. And they will have a framework to say, okay, Nollywood, start producing things that are in this direction. They can even give what you might call grants for production of such things. Create platforms and then promotional platforms for it, sponsored by the government. Yes. So if people are flooding something in the market and there's no opposition, no competition,
Computer.
you understand what I'm saying? That's what's happening. That's what's going on. Everybody just keeps bringing something to the marketplace and there's no counter to it. But when they have brought this and then the government spends money, gets the experts, do something serious, and then promote it, they have the money to do it. The government has the money to do it. That's where the orientation will start from. What is the NOA doing? National orientation. What are they doing? We have a national orientation in Nigeria, and Nigeria is like this.
I'm not the best place to answer.
No, but I'm asking a question. What are they doing? They have a DG, for crying out. They have it's an office. Okay? What are they doing?
A functioning one.
We have the census board. What are they doing? Is it when these children turn to monsters and shoot all of us? That's when everybody start running around and doing one fire brigade promotional thing it doesn't make sense. We should be proactive. Like look at things and then start on time to understand what we're doing.
Okay, another point where the Igbo culture is misrepresented. You see people put on the red cap. Growing up, I understand that the red cap is for chiefs. You have to go through a certain process to it's like to get this red cap. Right now, it's something that is sold everywhere. Even the Ishago. You see, even people that don't understand what these things represent, they have it on because in a movie, it's like easily as it's a costume for them, and you can easily assess it. What would you say about the misrepresentation of things like this?
Once you monetize anything, you kill it. Culture. Once you monetize, even spirituality, once you monetize it, you kill it. An also title holder is like a demigod in those days.
But it's not exactly. It's not the same right
in those
now.
days. It's the monetization that cost it. And part of these things I would also say is the problem of the colonial masters, what they did to us here.
But we play a huge responsibility in preserving these things as well.
I'll tell you what the colonial masters did. They came down here, they saw a system that was working and imposed their system on it. Created an elite class from that system that they created. They like from our people, they sieved out some of our people and made them the elite. And they became the lackeys that they use to govern us. By so doing, they watered down the things that we had in our system. Our shrines, our sacred sites. Some of them were even asked to get them as artifacts, to take them outside Nigeria. You take them abroad and they put them in museums and all those kind of things. And then you ask yourself, why were they doing those things? What did they need those artifacts for? Because they were tapping the energies in it. What our ancestors used. Okay? So when you look at that, you will see that there became a corruption of what our culture was. Today, just like I said initially, we talked about the creation of fiat money and the trade by barter thing. So with fiat money, the system became corrupt. And in the course of that corruption, all sorts of things started happening. Don't forget that they created warrant chiefs. And those warrant chiefs were people who were used against their people. Do you understand? So that they can have an effective administration of whatever system of government they brought. So there is no way we can talk about this thing without looking at the white man and saying, this is what you did to us. But of course, look at our government system, or the structure of government. It is still the white man that did it. Here you see a governor of a state paying Igwe's salary. And they say they have what you call it, autonomous community. What's that? And I asked somebody a question some time ago. Is the Prime Minister of UK higher than the King of England? Is the Prime Minister of UK higher than the King of England? The answer is no. So why is it that in Africa,
It's not the same.
It's not the same. And then you claim you have their system. You copied their system. That answers this question. Once there is corruption, it has a chain reaction.
Okay.
And once you monetize anything, you kill it.
Okay, we understand that you are the Enugu State Cultural Ambassador. And with this conversation we are having now, what have you been doing so far? What has been put in place so far to help preserve the Igbo culture as well?
The first and foremost thing you have to also know is that I have been creating music over the years. This is about my 35 years in professional performance. But the question, like I said, is who is listening? You're not singing about, I don't want to mention what they sing about, but because we're on air here, I'm not singing those things. So nobody will listen. You're talking something serious. They say, this music is too serious. I beg, give us something that we can dance. And you look at people and say, do you still dance under this condition?
Of course.
How can you dance under this condition?
To relieve the stress.
Okay, after dancing, what happens?
Go back to reality.
So it's a placebo. It's not a cure. It's a placebo. It's just to tell your psyche, oh well, let me just dance and enjoy. Your rent is getting high. Your landlord is disturbing you. Everybody is harassing you. MOT has just clamped your car. In a place where they've not written no parking and they're clamping your car. Nobody's saying anything. That's how it works. That's the system you find yourself in. So if we take things seriously and say, okay, let's do things the right way, fine, it will be fine. I've been talking musically because that's the medium I can talk with. I've been having interviews locally, internationally. Well, I've been saying it. But, okay, you write something and say, okay, you want to go to the Ministry of Culture and Tourism, you want to do this, you want to do that. You get in there. What are you going to have there? After the long talk, long back and forth talk, and everybody, you write a proposal, before you know it, it's gone. And you don't even want to, okay, just like you said, this question you asked me is a very important question. Some time ago, I was invited to represent Nigeria in New Delhi, in World Culture Festival. To represent Nigeria, not Enugu State, but Nigeria. So I came down here and I spoke to the people who were in charge. I said, okay, let's see, if we do this thing, you guys are going to say, we don't have money. They never have money. So I said, okay, give me a letter of endorsement because I'm going to project Enugu State in New Delhi. They saw my works and then they came for me. Enugu State, as at that time, they never gave me that letter of endorsement. You know where I got the letter of endorsement? I got it in Abuja. So how can you contribute to this kind of system where people cannot even know when there's an opportunity? So that's it. The letters are there, the documents are there.
So, okay, with all this being said, it seems like the system is so rigid and it's just hard to walk around with what is going on. What are those elites, the Igbo elites, what can they really do exactly to promote? Because they are out there, you know, they represent Nigeria, they represent the Igbo people, even on the global stage. Every other person, like you're in the music industry, we have other people in the music industry that are Igbo people that sing traditional music, and they are global, they are not just within the states. What exactly, how would you say they go about, you know, representing the Igbo people and reminding people that it is way beyond what they see on screens, that Igbo people are likely misrepresented in most cases and it's not always what they think?
Just like I said, you can make noise from here to Babylon. What the people have seen, you see this thing called TV. The screen is very powerful. Media is powerful. It is only the government that can do that thing. If they begin to put serious checks on this thing, start regulating these things, it will change our orientation. In fact, before you throw out a movie, it must go through the censors board. Even if the Nigerian, it doesn't done at the national level, the Igbo should have it.
To preserve their own.
Yes, they should have their own state census board. So if you're producing anything from here, it has to go through the process. We look at what you're producing. We can start it from any other part of Nigeria can be doing whatever they want. But a tourist who is coming into Nigeria, okay, he looks at Nigeria and says, okay, where can I find a place with a very safe environment and a culture that is very appealing? And then in the southeast, the Igbos, they'll say, okay, there's something about these guys. They have everything in place. That's the way they think. The person will come here, then you boost your tourism. But if we keep shooting this thing we're shooting and saying we are doing movies of ritual killing and all those kind of things, and then ill-gotten money and somebody's throwing money up and down, jumping up, it's not going to take us anywhere.
We keep saying the government. We have other bodies in the music, and we have the DJ, and that's the Director Guild of Nollywood. We have AG and the Actors Guild. So many guilds that represent under Nollywood. What can they really do within them to help with this situation? Because they see these movies, they produce them, they invite directors, they have actors as well.
First and foremost, just like I said, if we don't have a regulation on this thing, okay, you're a businessman and everybody wants a product that's substandard. You will give them a product that's substandard. People go to China and bring in goods into Nigeria. For instance, your charger. I'm very sure your charger is from China.
Of course.
How many weeks has it worked?
I just got it.
How many weeks? Okay. So let's start timing. When did you just get it?
I think about 2 weeks now.
Okay, so let's give it like 1 month and see if it's still working. That's what we were talking about. So if the government says, okay, this is a standard, everything will start working. Because everything in Nigeria as a whole revolves around government. So if the government is nonchalant about anything, it will be people will just be having a field day and be doing whatever they want. But when they say, listen, if you're going to produce a movie, we are going to look through it, everybody will sit up. And then they have to also clamp on the internet. Let's see what you are pushing from here. It's only the government that has the power to do that. But if the government, okay, look at somebody's playing that kind of thing, and then they invite government officials and they're dancing to that kind of music. So what are you saying? It's an endorsement. They're endorsing it. And when you look at the people in the government, they are
now we don't have to push blames to the Nollywood people, the government. Igbo people, what are they really doing? Are we even representing ourselves out there properly? Talk more, so that even if they see you and they'll be like, you behave differently from what I thought of the Igbo people. Are we really representing, as an individual, representing the Igbo people out there?
When you talk about individuals representing Igbo people, an individual is an individual. A tree can't make a forest. A tree can never make a forest. Something has to happen to have a radical change in this system. And there has to be some level of control. If you don't control it, it will keep multiplying. And that, okay, I make a movie on masquerades and all those kind of things, fine. So what happens if he makes a movie that is almost half pornographic? It will have more traffic. We know what we're talking about. So what are we talking about? So what are we saying? And then with this monetization of social media, and everybody's mad. The system is just crazy. With this thing we're doing now, you say we're monetizing Facebook, we're monetizing. You will just see people who are naked jumping up and down, and then you're having 1 million, 10 million followers, 10 million views.
Okay, I think this is the most we can have on this conversation because of time. Thank you so much for your input so far on this particular topic. Okay, our conversation was on abuse of Igbo cultures and other affinities from the Nollywood perspective. And our in-house guest, in-studio guest, Mahansa, aka Ezengwoko, I got it right, Ngwoko, Enugu State Cultural Ambassador. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you very much.
Signature TV, news in your pocket.